Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard here on this Thursday as we wrap up another week of fun and frolic here.
Yes, and what a packed show we have today.
Boy, I'm telling you, we've got a lot of good stuff for you. So sit back, relax, and tell all your friends. Tweet this out or X this out or whatever the heck this is.
I haven't caught up with the Twitter terminology
right.
or the X terminology, I guess.
Let all your friends know, and they can watch it. You can watch this anytime you want to. So
yes. And really quick, let's jump into some of the stuff going on here in Savannah today. The hearing for City Council for the millage rate is at 11, and then City Council is at 6. So we all know that they go into that 6 o'clock meeting already knowing what their decision is on their vote. So make sure you attend both of those. So 10 and 6 today for Savannah City Council. And tomorrow is when 9 a.m. the commissioners meet as well. So
what
check
time
those
is City Council?
10 is the hearing for the millage rate, and then 6 p.m. is the meeting tonight.
Okay, very good.
And it is an election year, so it is important you know how those people vote. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Meanwhile, it must be nice to be above the law.
I mean, it must be nice to be a Biden.
Yeah, sure is.
They get away with everything except for, this plea deal falling apart on Mr. Hunter Biden.
Yeah, really. Now, before you do your happy dance, because things could always go wrong, things could always go south here. But Hunter Biden goes to his hearing yesterday expecting to plead guilty to some deal that they've made up, meaning he doesn't have to get punished for anything. And he went there in a motorcade, as a matter of fact.
That I believe the taxpayer probably paid for, but
I'm thinking so.
I don't know if I'm ever going to see the receipts on that.
Maybe Burisma took care of it.
Yeah, maybe they did.
Yeah,
maybe
for real.
Or China.
Yeah.
Lots of options. Romania, they got a lot of.
Aren't they though? Yeah.
They have a lot of cash coming in. So
diversity.
Yeah.
They celebrate diversity.
Yeah, good for them. Wish I was a little bit more diverse in that way.
Boy, don't we though?
So
it didn't work.
It didn't work out. The judge started asking some questions and was not happy with some of the things that they were doing and could kind of, I think that there was a lot of indication that there were a lot of backdoor dealings going on, and the judge was not really having it.
No, and Brittany, it's interesting to me that in the 50 years, as hard as it is to believe, in broadcasting that I've been in, I don't ever remember until just in the last few years when a judge was mentioned in a story. It was a Trump-appointed judge, always. You didn't get that anywhere else. Judge so-and-so said this, that, or the other, or did this, that, or the other, and that's all you heard. You didn't hear it was a Nixon-appointed judge. You didn't hear it was a Clinton-appointed judge. You just heard it was a judge.
Well, that's probably the first question they ask when they're doing these stories. So who appointed you? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Noted. That's how I'm going to write my story, with that spin.
Exactly.
Because I also hear the Obama-appointed judge now, too. So apparently it matters.
There you go.
But maybe it's a good thing because people understand that the president does appoint those people. It's important. The people I think that we
on the federal level,
don't realize how important a lot of these positions are and how they're appointed or how they get into those positions. So I think it's good that we're bringing some light to it, because I do think that the American people, we've gotten a little lazy and our government has gotten more complicated. Yeah,
it has. And we've gotten a lot lazy as voters. That's for darn sure.
Absolutely.
Not doing our research or anything else.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that has been out of the mainstream media is this story in Fargo that you brought up to me. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on in Fargo?
Once again, this is pointing out how the media's power to ignore gives you some sort of an idea of what is not, what you think is not happening. It is. In Fargo, North Dakota, there was a shooting just recently by a peace-loving Muslim. And the FBI can't figure out why this happened. But a young police officer was killed and others injured. But one heroic police officer took this guy out. I think it's something like 100 yards with a handheld 9mm, and this guy's got an AR-15 or whatever he had.
Yeah, and I believe there was a 23-year-old police officer killed.
Yeah, right? 23-year-old police officer, nice-looking young man.
Yep.
I think he'll been on the force 6 months.
And I think that's one thing that really saddens me is that we're hearing these younger officers that are just getting into it. They're the ones that are maybe not as experienced, or maybe they I don't know, Bill, but we're seeing younger officers being killed.
Yeah, sometimes first on the scene or
Yep.
whatever it is, and sometimes these are ambushes that are set up by the bad guys, including this one.
Hmm.
And we're hearing absolutely nothing about it in the mainstream media. I did see the fact that this kid was killed, um, but they didn't really mention
Give the details.
any details on it.
Yeah, and I think we have a little bit of video from OAN.
Take a look at this from OAN.
We are expecting new information during a briefing today about the deadly ambush-style shooting of a police officer during a traffic stop in Fargo, North Dakota. We already know the accused killer had 1,800 rounds of ammunition in the car with him, along with numerous firearms and a grenade. Police say the 37-year-old shooter happened to be passing those officers who were on the scene of a car crash. The guy allegedly stopped and watched the officers and firefighters working that scene before he began firing at them out of his car window. Police call it, quote, an absolute ambush and a murderous barrage of fire. By the time it was all done, 23-year-old officer Jake Wallen was dead. 2 other officers and a woman involved in the crash were hurt. The shooter was ultimately shot and killed by another officer.
So just a quick wrap up on that, but so sad to see this. And you know, one of the things that I've seen this week is what's going on in Manchester, which you know, when we allow immigration and we don't have the assimilation piece attached to that, it does create some real problems, because you also have to understand when you're in a war for 20 years in other countries, these people are radicalized against us. And sometimes they are, you know, sometimes they love us and they come here to be Americans, but sometimes they come here and they have other motives.
Well,
So-
we have these Muslim communities that set up. They say that in some places, like in Minnesota, they don't have the police don't even go in there. They say we have our own laws, we have our own culture, so stay away.
Yeah, I don't think that that's healthy for the country.
It
And
is
I
not
think,
healthy for the country.
and Mary's with us this morning, Mary Highbreeder, and she says this is terrorism. It absolutely is. And I have a quick clip of what's happening in Manchester, which I think could be coming to the United States very soon. If not, it's already here.
And what are they doing?
We're
not rehearsing for America's Got Talent, I don't think.
No, but also our producer, he said that when he was in Europe, in London, they were taking over a lot of the squares and parks there, doing like their ritual stuff. You know, we don't see that in the U.S. at this point, but I do think that we're encroaching upon that, and I do think that that's, you know, outside American culture, and I think that we need to try and preserve what we have here.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, I do like this story. The fact that a guy, this is up in North Georgia in Ellijay near Atlanta, but he and his wife go to a convenience store. The wife waits in the car while he goes in. His name is Sean Milton. And he goes into the store to rob the place, puts a 45 to the head of the cashier and demands money. Well, there were 2 other people inside the store that had their carry permits and pulled their guns on the guy. And there was a guy outside pumping gas who had his carry, and police already confirmed this. Every one of those guys were carrying their weapons legally. And he comes in to help out, and they hold this guy, even though he's trying to resist, they hold this guy for the police. So he got more of the good guy with a gun than he had bargained for that day. So he and his wife have both been arrested now because the good guys with the guns stopped the bad guy with the gun. Way to go.
Thank you for constitutional carry here in Georgia.
Sure enough. All right.
Yes, I love that. You know, one of the other things that I thought was interesting, we had some people actually in studio yesterday, which was really fun. It's the first time we've had a big group of people in here, and we're going to be talking about the Barbie review in the next segment. But what happened yesterday with Mitch McConnell, I think it brings up a lot of serious questions, especially in the last year or two, with our politicians that are in office that shouldn't be. I mean, we have an aging
octogenarians.
Yes, in Congress. And I mean, we had Dianne Feinstein, who's had a lot of incidents. You have, now this Mitch McConnell thing. Obviously, the president is definitely not all there. I think that this is also a symptom of the fact that the culture is really dead. The people that have been running this country have been doing it for 40 or 50 years, and we do not vote these people out. I think it's a lack of engagement. I think it's a lack of voters doing any sort of research. They just vote for the incumbent. But really, really sad to see this from Mitch McConnell. They're not really sure what exactly it was at this point. But apparently he went on to have more meetings and stuff yesterday. Afterwards, that's what they're reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're saying it was dehydration, but I don't know. Maybe we could take a look at that video and
I've been
see.
dehydrated before. This has never happened to me.
And a string of Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
So I don't know. Some people are saying it could be a stroke. Some people are saying it could be, I think we think of seizures as being like people falling to the floor, but it could be some type of seizure.
You saw the guy that went to him first was Senator Barrasso, who is a heart surgeon.
Okay, I did not know that.
Okay.
But but I do think that this is a real problem in our country. I mean, most of those people are older, especially the people that have a lot of power up there, which is, I mean, it concerns me, especially being, in my 30s. I'm like, the average age of the American citizen is in their 40s, and we're being ruled by people that are twice our age, and are maybe a little bit more disconnected from technology and different things that are happening.
Well, whether they're connected to technology or not, the fact that they've been there that long is an indication that they ought to go. When you have this much power, it has to be taken away at some point.
Well, and for me, it is a concern that they don't understand technology, because we have AI coming and they don't understand what that looks like. And I mean, my grandmother is like, she's in her 70s, and I love her to death, but I wouldn't trust her to make decisions on policy about anything, because she has a hard time getting on her iPad. I love her, but there's just a point where maybe you're too disconnected from what's happening, that you should not be in those roles. And I think it's very selfish for these people to have stayed as long as they have, but also it's on the American people that we keep electing these people.
Yeah, well, it was never intended by the founding fathers for people to be professional politicians anyway. But there should be an age limit, because they put an age limit on the rest of us. They say 65 is required retirement in many cases. Pilots at one point had to retire at 63. They were losing too many pilots, and I think they bumped that up to about 65 or something like that, or 4. But it was ridiculous. Because one thing, you want a lot of that experience in the cockpit.
Absolutely.
That's a little different story. But 65 today is kind of the new 50.
Agreed. Well, and I just want to get to some comments before we go to break. Steve Stanton says, hear to the good guys with guns. Lizzie Warren says, McCain stayed when he was incapable of doing the job. Steve Stanton says, one too many terms.
Yep.
Mary Hybrider said term limits, and Lizzie Warren says it's not fair to the people of Kentucky that McConnell stays in office. Absolutely. It's not a representation of any of the Kentuckians that I know.
Well, we put term limits on the president, and ought to be on the rest of the Congress as well.
But I also think that makes the American people lazier. I'm just saying,
It does.
We have elections for a reason. We need to do better. This needs to be a priority in our country, and it just is not. So
Exactly.
When we get back, we'll be talking to Christy Maud and her daughter, Christian Rose, about their experience going to the Barbie movie.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
If you notice, there are a couple of people here with us.
Yes, and Christy and Christian actually went and saw the Barbie movie, which has sparked a lot of controversy around the country.
Mm-hmm. 2 hours of their life apparently they won't get back, which is what my granddaughter said up in Charlotte when she said she took some kids to see it, and she was embarrassed. But I'm going to rely on the experts who have gone to see it. Christy, what was the reason behind going to see it in the first place, and what were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad that you guys are asking someone who actually went and not like jumping on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impressive. But we went because I've played with Barbies. As a child, I've played with Barbies. I love Barbies. It was fun. It's fun to get dressed up. I didn't take any children. Wouldn't suggest taking any children. It's PG-13, so that sort of goes without saying.
It's like if I had gone to a Walt Disney movie as a kid, like the original Parent Trap,
right,
with Haley Mills.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have thought of whether or not it was PG-13.
Right.
They didn't have the ratings in those days, but it would have been a G movie. Why? This is Barbie. We're not talking about Monica Lewinsky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You would think it would be geared to little kids.
Uh-huh.
No one in our group was under 20. Everyone was over 20. But
really?
Yeah, I wouldn't take little kids to it simply because it's PG-13, and I figured there might be some woke concepts in it. I assumed. We went the very first night, so I didn't hear all of the hype. I didn't hear all of the reviews or any of that. I do have a special needs young lady in our family. Our daughter is 20, and if you know our family, you know that movies is an obsession of Lily's. So she loves movies. If you've met Lily, you understand that is going to be the topic of conversation for a good however long you'll entertain her.
Okay.
So she loves movies and begs to see movies. Many movies I have to say no to. But I did say yes to Barbie. We got dressed up. We put on our pink, and we did get dressed up. And it was fun. It was fun to get together and go.
Sure.
Christian Rose and I, this is my other daughter, Christian Rose, she went with us, and another one of Lily's buddies and helpers, who's 22, went with us as well. And there were definitely some cringe-worthy moments in the movie. You can probably tell him some things that you saw, especially at the beginning with the baby dolls.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, so they were, you have all these little girls and they're playing with their baby dolls because back then, I guess, that's the only option they had was to play this motherly role and have the baby dolls. And in the movie, they decided they didn't want to play with baby dolls anymore, especially when Barbie popped up on the scene. And they decided to just smash their baby dolls. And that was a little creepy. Like, I get it. Okay, yes, Barbie is introduced, and okay, now you can become like Barbie, and you can become an astronaut. You can become a doctor. You can, play all these roles. You can be a leader. And that's not too bad. Like,
I don't know how many eye rolls we gave one another during that movie, but it was a lot. But I remember that part, and I thought, that's just ridiculous. But at the same time, I thought, I never liked playing with baby dolls. I just didn't. I didn't play with baby dolls. I played with other things, and I love Barbies, and I had the dream house, and so I'm like, okay, maybe that's where they're going. You know, I played with guy toys too, with little boy toys too. I enjoyed that. So, you know, that part was just, it was cringe. It's like, that didn't need to happen so intense. Like, let's crash the babies' heads.
Well, they were just making a point, and I guess they got their point across, whatever that was.
Right. But, you know, it was still, there were parts, and I can tell you some good parts because you won't hear that because you didn't go see the movie. But, you know, and lots of people that, you know, are hearing some of these reviews, there were parts of it, the vivid, and I'm seeing this from an innocent viewpoint,
right?
From Lily's viewpoint, and I didn't go in with any, you know, false pretenses. I didn't hear any of the reviews about it, so I saw vivid colors. I saw, you know, cinematography and the backdrops, and I saw girls wearing actual girl clothes, you know, which was nice. They looked like women. I like to dress up and try to look pretty and wear colorful things. So that part I liked. I did enjoy that it wasn't sexual in nature. Like, you didn't see any sexual. Towards the end, one of the dolls talked about Ken's bulge. And I thought, that is so gratuitous and not needed, you know? But a lot of people were offended when they said, you know, I don't have a vagina and he doesn't have a penis. They mentioned those words. But at the same time, I've taught my children those words from the get-go. And obviously some parents don't. And that's you know, you can't say those words, but my kids knew those words. This is a woman and this is a man, and they knew what those words were.
Right.
So again, that part didn't offend me. There was a trans person in it. I found out later, so it wasn't something that was gratuitous in the movie. They didn't tell you this person is a trans. It wasn't obvious. Later, I thought, I wonder if that's a guy, and then I found out that it was. But it wasn't blatantly obvious in the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's just a couple things that, you know, at the end, they came back together and apologized for being rude to Ken and for making him feel like less than. That was somewhat redeeming. And then she went to a gynecologist, and that was an obvious, you know, well, I know it was really strange, but they asked her what she was made for, and then she went to a gynecologist. So obviously, she's made for motherhood.
Do we? Yeah.
You know.
Do we have the whatever that word is? Yes, gynecologist doll.
No, she wasn't. Oh no, no.
I missed the gynecologist doll.
Yeah. She went to a doctor at the very end, and so I thought, okay, at least they're showing that she's a woman. She's an actual woman, you know. So I tried to find redeeming things in it just for Lily's sake, but it was 2 hours that I can't get back. So obviously the negatives outweighed the positives. But you know, all in all, it's just I guess so many people are jumping on this bandwagon of attacking it that haven't seen it. So I'm thankful that you guys are asking someone who was actually there. But, you know, I'm really happy for that.
Yeah. Well, also, so, you know, I've heard a lot of things about this movie. A lot of the storyline really didn't make sense. It was kind of like bizarre, which if it was made for little kids, it probably wouldn't matter. But it sounds like it was geared towards probably people that grew up with Barbie and not necessarily little children. Yeah. The one thing that I did hear was something that you mentioned was that the set design was amazing. The costume was great. But that unfortunately they did put a lot of, you know, propaganda type stuff in there.
The third wave feminism stuff, that was ridiculous. Like, that's where I cringed the most, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, now it's not cool to be a mother. I think that's the biggest, like...
The best job, right? Like, the hardest job, but the most important. Like, and...
By far.
And we've demonized that. I mean, in every aspect of entertainment, and I think that's what I'm disappointed about, is that they've taken everything that, you know, is nostalgic for us and really like twisted what it really meant when we were kids. And they've kind of changed the meaning of things. In many ways, the meaning of a woman actually is nothing. The best women are men. I don't know if you knew. So, but, you know, one of the things that I was wondering about is that they in one of the lines that I heard was in the movie was, it's okay, men hate women, women hate men, and that's just the way that it is. How did that make you feel hearing that, and just that's kind of what the movie was almost about? And there was this friction between Ken and Barbie kind of acted like she didn't even like Ken, and it kind of treated him like garbage as far as like I understood the movie. I didn't see it. I won't see it.
Right.
Are you asking her?
Yes,
I think that the Barbies in the movie, they do treat the Ken dolls like they are just like an accessory.
They do.
And they manipulate them, and it really points, I would say, to some women, a lot of women today, especially like girls my age. It's just kind of like what it's turned into, the whole third wave feminism, and that's not the original plan. That's not originally what feminism was all about.
No.
And that's not what, we fought for, is to manipulate men and to treat them as accessories. And that's really, like, I saw a whole lot of that. And it just made me sad, because it's like, okay, if you decide to take your young daughter to see this movie, she's going to think, oh, men are stupid. Like, that's kind of, you will not, as a young girl, understand the whole storyline and what everything is pointing out. It's kind of abstract. You won't really get it. But you will understand, okay, boys are dumb. Like,
it's also like subliminal messaging, right?
That's true.
For little kids. I think that they've propagated a lot of things in cartoons and different things to get to kids, and I think that that's the whole goal. Do you guys feel like you would go see this movie again?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well,
definitely not.
Here's
dumb.
It
was dumb.
And here's the thing that they don't seem to explain. I saw somebody sent me one of these memes the other day that it had a man and a woman kissing each other and said, heterosexuals saving the human race for the last, 50,000, 60,000 years. So if men hate women and women hate men, how has the species managed to survive all this year?
It's a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the truth.
Especially without Hollywood. Yeah.
No, not in Hollywood. For sure. But some of the kids will probably, or people that play with Barbies when they were younger, will look at it and say, I never invited Ken to anything that I played with Barbie. Like, I didn't think about it from that perspective. I didn't. Ken was never even, he was in the box or in the bin, somewhere. So I wasn't a feminist, but I didn't think about Ken. Boys were gross at that point,
Sure.
So it's like, even that, I'm like, okay, I get that a little bit, because kids are playing with the dolls and she didn't invite them to her party. But they took it just, like 10 and a half steps further than that, So
exactly.
like, okay.
Yeah. Well, it was number one at the box office. Now, I don't know how it's going to, whether it's going to sustain. Sometimes these things start off well, and then they get all this negative publicity, or people start talking word of mouth, and it falls off.
Southern states are seeing it. A lot of southern states.
Yeah. Because I think because it gives you the wrong impression that it's about, it is for kids. And people get there and find out, like my granddaughter said, "Oh my word, I'm embarrassed."
Right.
And the fact that she regretted taking some little kids with her, but at the same time, Oppenheimer, true story, of course, comes out as number 2 at the box office. And I wonder if that might flip places this weekend. Would you take the kids to see Oppenheimer?
Well, I don't know a lot about it. I heard it was really good, but there's a lot of language. So I probably wouldn't take Lily.
Well,
I don't think she would enjoy that.
This is what bothers me about Hollywood more than anything else. If it seems like if the F word weren't in the English language, they couldn't write a script anymore.
I don't think they could.
Yeah, the writers the writers strike. Maybe they'll learn something. Maybe we'll teach them a lesson. Maybe we'll hire somebody that they can speak the language a little bit better and a little bit cleaner. So none of that stuff is necessary.
No.
And it becomes, and when you overuse it, like 2 hours of my life I won't get back was going to see the Al Pacino piece of garbage 30 years ago, Scarface. Yeah, I thought at first it was about Al Capone because that was his nickname.
I never saw that movie.
Listen, don't bother yourself.
Me either.
About a guy who comes over here as a drug dealer. After the peanut farmer let all the criminals from Cuba in here on the shrimp boat landings. it basically destroyed South Florida with all the drugs that were coming in, all these, and he was a big drug dealer type thing. And it was like if they could have set the Guinness Book of World Records on the F word being used.
Right. It's just gratuitous and not
yeah,
necessary.
And again, it loses its impact.
Right.
And I think that one of the reasons that's one of the purposes, because you still have people fighting to get it on regular television now. They're already using the Lord's name in vain on
all
TV, so that could be the next step.
It could be, and that you mentioned PG-13 earlier.
Yeah.
That they didn't have that, and just the other day, and I was equally irritated by this as I was the Barbie movie. I'm watching a movie called Stuart Little, rewatching it with Lily.
Right.
And towards the end, and they always do this towards the end. Remember in Barbie, it was like the latter part that it became worse. Why do they do that? But towards the end, the cats, of all the creatures in the whole movie, the cats were just constantly cursing, just over and over and over. Thinking, why in the world are the cats having to curse in this movie? But it was way back. It's an older movie.
Yeah.
And it catches you by surprise, some of these older movies.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the label, the PGs or whatever.
And it shows how society has changed. Do you know that which movie had the first curse word on screen?
Movie or a TV show?
Movie.
No.
Gone with the Wind.
Oh.
When,
I remember that.
At the end where he said, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." The theaters went nuts. My father was was manager of the Lucas Theater here at the time.
Wow.
And he had to refund people's money. They were out. There was an outrage over the fact that he had said "damn" on screen.
Times have changed.
Yeah, we used to have a wholesome population. I don't know what happened.
If they'd have seen that now, we'd have to stick them in a rubber room in a straitjacket, and pack them in shaved ice or something.
Yeah. Well, before we go, I just want to ask one really quick question about what the theater makeup was. Was it mostly children, mostly adults when you guys went?
I would say mostly adults.
I didn't see any kids.
Oh, that's good.
It was mostly adults.
Okay.
Where did you see it?
NCG.
Okay.
Victory. Yep.
And there was a lot of yelling in the background whenever the one actor, the mom, gave her feminist speech.
Oh, yes. There was a whole speech, this whole feminist speech, and everyone was like, yes, yes.
That was
oh, my gosh.
They don't mention that when people that are bashing the movie, they don't mention that. I'm thinking the parts that I found most cringeworthy are not even in this list. It was ridiculous.
Exactly what were they saying? A couple of specifics.
I honestly went in one ear and out the other because I just can't listen to it.
It was just
like I really cannot.
I'm with you.
Y'all will have to. You can Google it because I'm sure it's on there. But everyone in the background was like, "Yes, yes," and I was looking at her, and I wanted to vomit. It was ridiculous. That was the most feminist part. Is the speech that the mom gave.
Were there any car chase scenes?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Well.
The one movie this year
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hollywood just loves car chases. Yeah. They couldn't have one that bent her, so they had the chariot race.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, so there's your review on Barbie. If you still want to go see it, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Don't take your children.
But save your money.
Yes.
Go see Oppenheimer.
Yes. Or Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
Sound
of Freedom was nice.
Back to back.
Yes. All right. Well. Thanks so much for being here, guys. We appreciate you guys giving us the lowdown on the Barbie movie, and we will be right back. They were really fun to have in studio, weren't they, Bill?
Christine Maud.
Christy Maud and Christian Rose.
Rose.
And, Steve Stanton says, I appreciate their perspective, but wonder what a younger person's would be. So we actually had a lot of generational perspective because I'm actually in between Christy and her daughter, and her daughter's in her early
20s.
So just
I don't know how much younger, but there's a possibility we can get my granddaughter, who's just turned 18, who took some kids to see it and said, "Oh God, this was awful. 2 hours of my life I won't get back."
Yeah. So anyways, the Barbie movie's fun. I think that it was a good idea. However, the writers of this, one of the writers was the person that did Lady Bird, which was like a really weird and odd movie, which kind of makes sense why Barbie's storyline didn't really make sense and why it was a little odd.
Was that a documentary on Lyndon Johnson's wife?
I think
That was
so.
her maid. Yeah,
I think so. It was a very strange.
Lady Bird Johnson.
Yeah.
I always thought that was really.
It was
weird.
a very strange movie, but anywho.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have on Barbie. And when we get back, Bill is talking to Travis Chance.
Yeah, we're going to get you some financial advice from CFG Wealth Management next. Come join us today at Sweet Potato's Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America. Time now to check in with Travis Chance, CFG Wealth Management, to find out what's going on market-wise and investment-wise, and keeping you up to date and informed so you can make an informed decision yourself and even talk to Travis. You tell him you heard it here, and you might get a free session from him. Well, you will get a free session from him, as a matter of fact. No obligation whatsoever. Travis, good to have you back after a week's hiatus. I understand that the last time we talked, we said that there was some good news about the stock market. I think as we record this, we had 12 or 13 days in a row where it's been up. And we were hoping that the Fed was going to put the brakes on these interest rates. Where do we stand now?
Like we talked about, Bill, I really, even 2 weeks ago, I thought we were actually looking for more optimism than pessimism. And I still feel like the market is in a good place fundamentally. I think we've now crossed the Rubicon. We have had more positive days out of this last bear market that ended in October. More days up than we had going from the top to the bottom on the way down. Usually that's a pretty good indicator that the market is starting to form a bottom. It's not always a guarantee, but it is a pretty good guide. I think we are seeing some signs that obviously the tech stocks, the really heavy NASDAQ with all these stocks that have run up, they're really starting to see a rebalancing. That's the reason they've kind of slowed down. The Dow's started to move higher. So I do think if the Fed doesn't, you go back to your question, if the Fed doesn't monkey around with this thing and they actually allow the market to be and do what the market does, which is basically let it govern itself, get out of the way, Fed, please. I think we'll be in a pretty strong position for not even a soft landing. I really don't see us going into this deep recession. But, Bill, I don't trust them any farther than I can throw them. Obviously, I'm a pretty big guy, but I still can't get that much distance out of them. I really feel like they're gonna go another quarter point this month. I don't think a quarter point's going to be catastrophic, but they're going to continue to tighten. One of the things that I did have an opportunity to do is see one of my heroes, Jeremy Siegel, at the Wharton School. I saw him in person at a conference, and he was talking about it. You know, the Fed has accomplished its goal, but I think they keep trying to tighten and tighten and tighten because they want to see something crack. They want to see something break to know that they have tightened enough. Do I think they're going to continue to rate hike? I've kind of given up giving that prognostication. I don't know. Kind of like Punxsutawney Phil. I might see my shadow, but I can't guarantee you whether it's going to be another 3 months of rate hikes. I really feel like they've done their job. We've got inflation now in the threes coming down. It will be in the 2 handle here shortly. But I think it's going to be a double-edged sword, not to go off topic, but you know, a lot of retirees, they enjoyed those 5 to 10% cost of living adjustments the last 2 years. And if the Fed keeps going the way it's going, you know, we're going to start seeing cost of living right now is already projected to be at 3% for this year. They keep they keep going up, going up, going up, you're probably going to see cost of living for seniors go back in the ones and twos. So, I mean, there's a catch-22 of this whole thing. The Fed's not just playing with the economy; they're playing with people's paychecks. They're playing with people's lives, and I really do wish they would actually read the data, because it's there, but they didn't read it the first time, and it is what it is. We saw what happened in 22. Will they read it this time? Bill is 65 pick 'em, and I don't know.
Yeah, can't leave well enough alone. That's one of the problems. We have that in government, even though that's not technically part of government, but it is one of those monopolistic type agencies, so they'll do whatever the hell they want to. And you're right. You would think they would be able to read the stats and get that taken care of. We see gas prices back on the rise again.
Well, fuel and I don't even know if I want to get started on that. If it's up to this current administration, I mean, heck, none of us are going to need gasoline in about 10 years anyway, because we're all going to be driving electric cars and crash the grid. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I had to get that one in there. But I think you're starting to see fuel prices. Usually summer, we do see a hike in oil. We do see more consumption. People are still traveling. After being on multiple airline debacles over my trip and being in the air, I can tell you, if I had the choice and I could drive somewhere, I'm driving, I'm not flying. So, maybe that means more consumption, but that's okay. I think fuel is cyclical. I think you're starting to see oil prices creep up a little bit. I don't think it's anything for us to be concerned about, but I do see where, some people could look and say, oh, well, gas is now getting back up to $3.50, $4 a gallon. And, what do we do? I really don't think it's really anything nefarious. I think it's just usual summer consumption goes up, and, that's kind of where we are. It's not like we have a lot in the strategic petroleum reserves, because those are all gone. Thanks, current president.
Yeah, boy, it's amazing. It's okay to go after other people's oil, but we can't go after our own.
I'm kind of beating on the government this morning, Bill, a little more than I usually do. But anyway,
well, there's a lot to beat on.
Just a little pent up aggression. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and if the government would get out of the way and let the free enterprise system take care of itself and go after our own oil, why we go after somebody else's and think that's okay, and then have to have it shipped in here, which is a double penalty on the environment of these people that think they want to save the planet so much. What are what is there anything that surprises you in the market right now? Is there anything that's doing really well that shouldn't, or vice versa?
I think once again, I think what we're seeing, and I'm a little bit shocked that value and your quality companies. I'm not saying growth is not quality, but let's talk about your dividend paying companies. I'm really shocked that value really hasn't moved forward as much as some of the other sectors. I think what we're seeing right now is a rotation back into a lot more growth. I don't think that's going to be long term. All of our clients, we still recommend holding a portion in the value sector, dividend aristocrats, et cetera. I think those are probably, my opinion, a great buy right now. I think they're really cheap. I really thought they would have moved forward a lot quicker than they have, but I don't think they should be counted out. I'm actually in the camp. I think we should always have a diversified portfolio. It's okay to tilt sometimes, but you definitely don't want to leave out good quality areas. And I think that's one that probably needs to be examined if you've got those out there looking at their portfolio.
And I know, Travis, that we've discussed this on numerous occasions, but we got new people tuning in all the time, and always good to reiterate this, that your object is to make money. And sometimes you might be invested in what we call the woke corporations or something that are still doing quite well. And as long as it's making money, okay, I'm going to hold my nose and hold the stock.
Yeah, we believe in meritocracy. We don't believe in wokeism. If a company, once again, if a company has a good balance sheet, we see where there's a great opportunity or there's a good opportunity for growth going forward. Earnings, income, balance sheet looks good. Dividend looks great. Increasing dividend. These are all reasons to look at fundamentals of a stock. This whole Bill, you and I've talked about this. This whole investing, using an ESG score and this wokeism that everybody is starting to really, I guess, BlackRock. I think they're actually seeing where now that's probably not the best way to govern. So who knows? Maybe we'll start seeing a little bit of that go to the back and a little more meritocracy come to the front. I mean, who knows?
Well, as a matter of fact, BlackRock looks like they're trying to get into our good graces. They're doing a lot of advertising on television now, especially on Fox. So they're trying to tell us what a wonderful organization they are and how much they care about America and about people.
Yeah, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona for you, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and good luck with that. I think one of the things that's most important to us is, do companies actually learn their lesson? When we talked about, what happened to Anheuser-Busch with Bud Light, which is now like number 15 in sales as opposed to number 1 for over 30 years. But now that CMT, Country Music Television, has told Jason Aldean that they don't want his video on their website because it promotes, according to the left, promotes violence and lynchings and assassinations and stuff of that nature. Has the CMT stock taken a hit? Do we know?
I'll be honest. I honestly haven't even investigated that. That's a great because it just happened, and I apologize.
Yeah.
I've actually been traveling for 2 days.
Oh, sure.
It just happened. I really and truly haven't looked at it, but Bill, as far as do people learn from these types of things? You would think so, but common sense is a superpower these days, and it's almost like everybody's sitting on a ton of kryptonite. They don't get it. You would think that the billions and billions of dollars that it has cost them would let them go back and say, let's just be beholden to the shareholders, not to this ideal that a select group puts out. Look, I'm all for anyone doing what you want to do, right? I'm actually more libertarian than I am actually conservative. If you want to do it, whatever you want to do, that's up to you. But at the end of the day, I think that this behavior by the corporations will cause a series in the future and could cause a series of lawsuits because, Bill, how is that doing what's in the best interest of the shareholder if it's a public company by making these decisions, knowing what it's going to do to the share price? And at the end of the day, the board of directors is beholden to the shareholders. Their job is to increase the share price and to do what's in the best interest of the company and the stockholder, not what's in the president's, his warped sense of whatever reality needs to be. So, I hope common sense takes over at some point, but who knows? This whole CMT thing, but it also goes to show you. I think Jason Aldean, I did read this. His song has now been downloaded 900% more than anything else on iTunes at this point. If that doesn't tell you what you need to know, I don't know what you're looking at. Because what that tells me is, it's like you literally have no idea what you're doing. You are just placating to the woke mob, and you need to be placating to the stockholders and the shareholders. But hey, that's why they make pink sheets and these golden parachutes to buy these guys out and hopefully get somebody in that can actually can do what's in the best interest of the shareholder. But time will tell. Who knows?
Yeah, I was just thinking. I would always, when I see some of these golden parachute things, I said, "Listen, you can hire me for 6 months, and I can run the company into the ground too." And I could use that. I could use an extra few million.
Shoot from the hip, do what I want. Hey, give me $3 million out of the 6, and I'll just walk away.
Sure, there you go. Any any parting words or advice for us besides giving you a call and getting some people interested in how to invest your money?
Absolutely, Bill. The one thing I would say is this: we are starting to see the signs of what we've seen in the past, which is FOMO, fear of missing out. A lot of money's on the sidelines. A lot of money's in these 5%, 4% T-bills and treasuries. Let's just be honest. You seldom have a good outcome when you try to chase. You have to be strategic, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with tilting, but don't go all in, go all out. That's the reason why a good steady hand usually can tilt the scales in your favor. And we're starting our classes up again in August, Bill. So for those that are looking for education and not for someone to try to sell you something because they're buying you a dinner, that's why they need to come and get some good information, spend some time where they can really drill and dig deep into their needs, their goals, and really have an opportunity to get their questions answered. And that's what we inevitably try to achieve at every class that we teach. So those are coming up. Go to our website, chancefinancialgroup.com, and take a look. Maybe there's one that'll be convenient to you and yours in your area, and we'd love to see you.
All right, got it right up there on the screen. Travis, thank you very much. We'll check in again next week. Appreciate you being with us, as always.
Thanks, Bill. Good to be back. Good to see you. See you next time.
Good seeing you. All right, and we'll be right back. Stay real.
I always love Travis Chance's perspective. He's always got a couple of good one-liners in there.
Sure, and a more positive outlook sometimes on the market, and let's hope it stays that way, and that the Fed will learn its lesson and not go up on the interest rates again. He said they've done their job. Now get the hell out of the way. That's what you ought to do with the American free enterprise system. Look how well it worked under Donald Trump. Meanwhile, coming up next, we're going to also check in with Jay Ratliff, aviation expert, on what's going on in the air and the people who are on the ground taking care of it.
We'll be right back.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes. Welcome back to Get Real America, and it is time once again to find out what's going on in the skies and on the ground of the people who run what goes on in the skies. Our good buddy Jay Ratliff, aviation analyst, is with us here once again. Jay, good to be back with you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Well, sir, major airlines right now are fighting back over this proposed Amsterdam cuts due to climate change. So the folks over in Holland have fallen for the drinking the Kool-Aid again.
Absolutely. In fact, Amsterdam, which is the Schiphol airport, they have 500,000 flight operations, and they are trimming that back to 460,000 because airplanes are bad. They kill the planet, and they want to reduce the number of flights in and out of that busy airport, which is really unfortunate because Schiphol is a low-cost alternative to London. So a lot of people from around Europe will fly into Amsterdam cheaper, and then they will find ground transportation over towards and then across the channel into England. And that's kind of being taken away from them. But the thought is that they're going to reduce the flights. It's a law, and that's one of the reasons that we have KLM, Delta, United, a bunch of other airlines that have filed an appeal at the Dutch Supreme Court. They're trying to get this overturned because Bill, here's the danger. If this sticks and we continue to have this reduction of air service due to climate change policies, what used to be called global warming until things started to cool and we had to find another name for it. The thought is other airports in Europe could follow suit. So at a time when you've got the demand for travel just exploding around the country, around the world, you actually have a situation where they would start limiting the number of flights. And that's one of the concerns here. So hopefully we will get to the point where common sense will prevail. But I think probably the most interesting aspect of this to me is one of the first airlines that jumped on board with this is KLM. You and I talked about this near 100-year-old airline a couple of years ago, when in the climate change thought process, they had a Fly Responsibly campaign. That Fly Responsibly campaign, and believe me, you can look it up on YouTube, I'm not making this up. They actually had a campaign that encouraged their frequent flyers to consider whether or not their next trip was really, really necessary. Maybe you could drive. Maybe you could get on the phone with someone. Maybe you could skip. This is an airline that's encouraging people to not fly. And I'm thinking, what if everybody took your advice? I mean, how stupid can you get? And you can look it up on YouTube, Fly Responsibly Campaign KLM. That's the madness that we're fighting in Europe. And right now it's unchecked. And you and I both know if it travels over here, very fertile ground for this kind of thought process here in the United States.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Yeah, for sure. They wanted cigarettes once upon a time to put X-rays of diseased lungs on their packages. That makes perfect sense. We're talking about my good buddy Jay Ratliff, and Delta Mount, meanwhile, has encountered some hail. I know you run into things in flights you don't expect. In fact, I can remember a story of a Southern Airlines plane that inhaled, that went into the engines. They had to make an emergency landing, and heck of a try. The pilot tried to put it down in the middle of a neighborhood or something on a street somewhere. It didn't work out very well, but at least he gave it the old college try. This hail goes into the engines, and that's bad.
Well, and when you're dealing with hail the size of tennis balls,
yeah,
I'm sorry, that's horrific. But this was a Delta flight. They were going from Milan to New York, and they encountered severe turbulence. Now, of the 4 different kinds of turbulence, severe is the next to most severe of them all. You have extreme, where they lose control of the aircraft. Severe turbulence is the crew partially or temporarily could lose control of the aircraft. But look, you're at altitude. Turbulence by itself is not dangerous. It's uncomfortable. It's dangerous if you don't have your seatbelt on. But they went from severe turbulence into a hailstorm with these tennis-size hail chunks that started slamming into the aircraft. So the airplane is hit by hail the size of tennis balls. It tears a hole in the nose of the aircraft, punches holes in the wings, and batters both of the engines. Now, again, This was New York, Milan, Italy to New York. They had just taken off. They weren't in the air very long. And what ended up happening was they had to divert to Rome, made an emergency landing with what was left of that aircraft. And if you go online and look at some of the pictures, it actually looks like an airplane that maybe was in a World War II bombing raid. And that's what it looked like when it landed. It is just horrific. Now, they had 215 passengers on board, 8 flight attendants, and I believe 3 pilots. There were no injuries reported. But I've been through severe turbulence. But, Bill, I've never been into a severe hailstorm in one of those silver revenue tubes. And the way that would echo, I mean, I don't know how it sounded, but you had people that were absolutely losing their minds because they had never before experienced that. And, thankfully, again, the airplane was able to stay together enough that they were able to land it without any problems. That just an unbelievable situation and some unbelievable pictures when you look at it.
Yeah, we have one up on the screen now. And Jay, the amazing thing is that not only the engine survived, but even if you have damage to the wings, I mean, we're talking about the ability for the plane to fly. Engines are not.
That's what provides the lift. So you have to have the airflow over and under that wing, and when you start having damage to the leading edge of the aircraft that could disrupt that airflow, that affects the pilot's ability to maintain control of the aircraft. So again, you had some incredible crew work here with pilots doing what they needed to do to quickly get that airplane on the ground. And it's a team effort. You have everybody working together in the cockpit to get that airplane to land quickly at the nearest airport, whatever it might happen to be. because you really don't know the extent of the damage. You don't know immediately if you've got a fuel leak. You don't know if there's been damage to something that's going to help you land the aircraft. Of course, you've got the avionics, which a lot of that is in the nose cone itself. If that's been damaged, how's that going to impact to one degree or another your ability to determine the things that you need to land that airplane properly? So there's just a lot of things that could have gone wrong here, and thankfully it's a good news story. It's not something that we're talking about today as a horrific ending of an airplane coming out of the sky after being battered. And of course, the question that we get all the time, and I'm sure our audience is thinking the same thing: why can't we predict that? Why can't we predict turbulence? Why can't we predict this kind of a severe weather event? And we simply can't. Now, obviously, when planes using their radar and they're being guided by air traffic control, there's pockets of bad weather that we steer around. We don't go through them for the most part. But a lot of times when you have fast moving fronts, it can collapse on you real quick where you're just kind of walled in by two fronts. And what ends up taking place is you are big time in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And the consequences you have to fight your way through. And again, I'm just glad that there were no injuries here. The airplane can be repaired. But yeah, if you want to start with your morning cup of coffee, check out some of those pictures.
For sure. I understand, Jay, we actually had somebody from the Savannah area that was on that other Delta flight out in Las Vegas that experienced that delay.
Yeah, and the Department of Transportation is looking into that because this is, again, Delta Airlines. Yeah. They are number, I think, 11 or 12 for takeoff in Vegas. I think the flight was heading back to Atlanta. And it's 111 degrees. And when you are taxiing, there's very little airflow through the cabin. So it's uncomfortable and it's getting hotter. And the delays on the departures were such that you started to have passengers on the airplane passing out. Well, the captain's notified of what's taking place, so obviously they get that airplane back to the gate as quickly as they can. The medical teams come on, and they're caring for those that are injured, and they are taking those individuals off. Now, the captain at the gate is telling, from what I understand, passengers on board, look, we don't have any empty seats coming out of Vegas for the next 4 days. So our plan is let's take care of those that require medical attention, and then we will shut the door, and everybody that's left, we'll go ahead and taxi back out and take off. Once we're airborne, the airflow is going to get a lot cooler, and it's going to be much more pleasant. Well, the problem is while they're at the gate tending to those people, more people pass out, including the flight attendants. So now you've just got a situation where the flight obviously is canceled, and then they're getting people off the airplane, but it was a very slow process. And Bill, some of the people on that airplane were on there for more than, or right at 4 hours. Wow. So the Department of Transportation and Pete Buttigieg, which again, I'm not a fan of Pete, but I appreciate what the administration is doing, trying to hold the airlines accountable. They're asking Delta, what was the delay here that would cause that kind of delay for passengers that taken care of in those kind of extreme weather conditions? So everything that happens, it's the call of the pilot in command, and I'll be interested to see the post incident report on this to see exactly what the thought process was. I don't know what it was. There might have been some pressure on the crew to get that airplane back to Atlanta for other flights, so maybe they were pushing it a little bit much, trying to find a way to make it work. It might have been a crew that was just anxious to get home. The last flight of the day, let's get this airplane back there so that there's no delays. We don't really understand what happened, and I think from what we're being told, the injuries were not serious to the point of any, people still in the hospital type of thing, but it certainly was a situation that requires a great deal of medical attention. And passengers obviously are looking at suing and other types of things because this was a series of decisions made by Delta Airlines. And look, you don't pull away from the gate saying we're going to have a 4-hour delay. A lot of times those delays are 20 minutes, and then you have another 20-minute delay, and then you have another 20-minute delay on that. Before you know it, you're on the airplane for 2 hours. Yeah. And sometimes in a weather event, I'm asked, why would you do that, not bring everybody back to the gate and let them off? And a lot of time in weather events, you might only have a window of 10 minutes where air traffic control says, hey, we have an opening. We're going to dispatch X amount of flights. Go ahead and taxi in position, take off. Well, if you're at the gate and everybody's off the plane, it's going to take you 40 minutes to load everybody back on. Then by the time you get back there, you've lost your window of departure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a catch-22, isn't it, so to speak? As we wrap it up, Jay, any unusual stories? I understand there was one woman that claimed that she was possessed or something that was running around on a flight. Did you hear about that?
Well, we had a woman that said the person next to her wasn't real, and she freaked out, said, getting off this plane, and if anybody stays on this airplane, they're going to die with this individual. And you're thinking, okay, what's going on there? But, let me give a shout out to American Airlines if I can.
Sure.
Last 2 weeks ago, United Airlines came out with a pilot contract where they offered their pilots a significant raise, matched kind of what Delta had done. American Airlines had already given their pilots, as part of the latest negotiation, their best offer on the contract. Well, when United came out with their deal, which matched Delta's, American management looked at what they had offered and said, this isn't enough. We need to pay our pilots more. They pulled that offer back, sweetened the deal considerably, and then gave the revised version back to the pilots. And the pilot union says they'll look it over to see. But hats off to American Airlines for taking that initiative where they did just that, saying, look, we want things to be consistent and we don't want other pilots being paid more than ours. We appreciate ours, and hats off to them for that. And let's hope that leads to the final move for Southwest Airlines. Hello, wake up, Southwest. It's been negotiating with their pilots for almost 5 years, trying to figure out what they're going to pay them. You don't need to figure anything out. You have the United, the Delta, and the American deals on the table. They're pretty consistent. That's what you should pay your pilots. Let's get that deal over with, because right now the pilots they've taken a strike vote. They've indicated that if things continue to move as they are, way down the road, there's a possibility of a strike. So there's some big concerns there. Those worries that Southwest is pushing onto their future passengers can be avoided. Just get the deal done. It's got to be taken. They've got to take care of it and fast.
All right, sir. Jay, we always appreciate it. We okay with hub delays around here?
I think Minneapolis is going to give us some problems today with some thunderstorms, but the real issue is going to be later in the day when we have the pop-up thunderstorms. And anytime you have people working on the ramp and there's lightning in the area, they shut the ramp down for 15 minutes.
Oh.
So that means if you're taxing in, everything stops, and you wait until that 15-minute window expires for people to be able to come out of the protected buildings to resume their work. But here's the problem. If you have another lightning strike in 10 minutes, it resets that 15-minute clock. So we might have some of those this evening, hopefully minor, but it's just that time of year with a lot of these pop-up storms that are impacting flight operations around the country, especially through the South.
Jay, God bless. Stay safe, and we appreciate it. Safe travels for you, and good to be back with you.
Always good talking to you, pal.
Likewise. God bless. Take care.
I always love when Jay's on the show.
Oh, yeah. And as the old Egyptian undertaker used to say, after a hard day's work, that about wraps it up. But as we leave you today and this week,
we have some comments about some of our guests. EVs will crash the grid or limit your travel, says Lizzie Warren. Mary Hybrider had a comment for Steve Stanton. It looks like another Hollywood production intentionally targeting the younger ones with their woke indoctrination. And Steve Stanton says pilots were a major factor in getting down without further damage. Absolutely. And Mary Hybrider says they leave the gate to keep their on-time statistics in check.
Yeah.
Which does check out. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. It was a really fun show for us today. Having lots of guests is always a good thing. And thanks to everyone who participates in the show and also supports us. Remember to check out Sweet Potatoes. They support us, as well as...
and call Travis at CFG Wealth Management and thank him and ask for your free consultation. Tell him you heard it here.
Yes. And I think that's going to do it for us and this week. But thanks for tuning in. Remember to download our app, The Local Spin. We have some exciting news coming in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be excited to share that stuff with you guys. And have a great weekend.
Yeah. Can't spell Democrat without RAT. See you Monday.